Sexualizing your body makes you a better person.
Are you recording?
I'm gonna record you. Yes.
Do you want me to throw water on you? I am racist. And you are.
You are an idiot. No,
I
I'm
am
not.
racist, and I'll say that to the whole entire world. Don't be disrespectful.
You ruined your life, by the way.
Oh, you're talking about respect? You're talking about respect? You are fired from this place, mother. You're not gonna be working here.
Suck it.
Suck what? Look how you fucking look like.
What's wrong with you?
What the is wrong with you, you ugly Get the out of my face.
Talking about ugliness?
Did I stutter?
You we're not? No, we're not. No, we're not.
Because you know damn well you're a
Respect.
evil.
Respect. Keep squeezing that caramel. Get the out of here.
That was meant for you.
Yeah, these Edomites, they crashing out. They know that they have a short time left. I'm going to start by giving all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rechak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations to the tabernacle of David, the hopeful elect that are scattered nationwide, worldwide, throughout the four corners of the earth. And I just, the Spirit just got on me to, just do a lesson in regards to what we witnessing, as far as these Edomites crashing out, and this latest situation with this Cinnabon employee that got fired for this encounter. She was going back and forth with these Somali migrants, that happened to be citizens in the country, and we knowing how these Edomites think, through their Edomite lens, they see a lot of people of color, and they'll automatically classify you. They'll profile you, discriminate, and really what this all goes back to is Esau is he's fearing being outpopulated by the melanated nations, all the dark races, coming over here and, overpopulating or outpopulating them, knowing that, they're starting to become fewer, within a demographic. And what's interesting is, this is all interesting timing, that you have this situation occur. And then all of a sudden you seeing Donald Trump, he's deciding to enforce deportation amongst these Somalians in the country. And I believe they already started over in, was it in Minneapolis, if I'm not mistaken, where they're going to basically try to, deport, a big population of Somalians, right? And then you had a post or a tweet by Elon Musk where he's talking about how the Edomite population is damn near going to go extinct. Like basically, if this migration crisis continue, throughout the next generations, the Edomite race, they will become extinct. So Esau, it's this growing fear of not only being outnumbered, but also in the process of that, him losing his prestige, he's losing his political power, he's losing his dominance, his respect. And this is exactly what they fear. Nobody respecting them. All right. Because you are Edomite and you working at freaking Cinnabon. You're an Edomite woman. You working at freaking Cinnabon. You got these pirate head Somalians. They're laughing at you and pulling out their phone and making a spectacle of you. So you devils then definitely fell, from a high place, man. But we're only in the beginning of your fall. Let me get a quick script. Let's go to the Apocrypha. And let's go to 2nd Ezra 6. So we're living in the times of Esau's fall. This is part of that age or that eon, all right, where he's beginning to fall so that Jacob can be risen up. This is 2nd Ezra 6 and starting at 7. And it says, Then answered I and said, What shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, From Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the hill of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And that would mean that, if this is the end of a particular dominion, then that means that we're nearing the end of that dominion. That means that that particular nation that's dominating, that's ruling, they have to fall in order for the next nation to be put into power. So this is what we're witnessing, and this is the fallout from Esau basically losing his power. All right. So these devils, they're crashing out. They're losing it. They're not going to be politically correct anymore. All right. They're not trying to lose, to anyone. They've been dominating for far too long. All right. And they would do anything to maintain that. So to see, all these different nations here, all these melanated nations coming over here and thriving while they're, working at freaking Cinnabon, out at the drive-through panhandling, holding up signs. A lot of Edomites, they're doing bad, man. So they're looking at how everybody else is thriving, and this is supposed to be their kingdom. So Esau is gonna feel a certain way. All right, so they're not gonna be PC with anyone. So they called these this Karen. She called them two Somalians, this Somalian couple, the N-word, which when you got people with melanin, colored people, this is how they'll classify you. Like there's clearly a distinction between American Negroes and Somalians and basically which they're of a Kush, all right, which is one of the families of Ham. They're a Hamite nation, but these devils, they can't help themselves. All right. So this moment went viral, and this is just going to cause, more riffraff, and it's going to cause more division, of course, because this country prided itself on being a multicultural, all these different countries being here. This is the whore that sits upon many waters. And we know that those many waters represents, the different nations and tongues. All right. So this place being multicultural, with all these different nations being able to come over here and, through the visas and these different programs, which a lot of it is provided through the Democratic left. All the Democratic politicians and governors and mayors, they all are for immigration, multi, basically a diverse cultural environment, if you will. All right. But the Most High is, he's causing that division. This is going to further, bring this place down. All right. So, I believe after this happened, like usual, just like that Edomite at that park that cussed out a young, I don't know if he was a Jake or if he might have been another Hamite that they mistook for a Jake. And she was calling him all kind of racial slurs, and she yelled out the N word, and it went viral. And this bitch ended up getting rewarded. She had a GoFundMe, and she ended up making enough money where she can actually go and establish and invest in, that's what these Edomites do, man. And this woman right here, I'm pretty sure she, after this went viral and she got fired, the Edomite, the patriotic, outright, racist, skinhead, redneck, Ku Klux Klan, Edomite, I'm pretty sure they raised donations to this woman. So she's probably making, 5-6 figures, just from that. And now, and she ain't got to work at Cinnabon. Now she can start her own restaurant. She can start a whites only pies restaurant. But we're in that time right now, man. But all that's happening is the Most High is making them small among the heathen and greatly despised. They're gonna lose their respect. They're gonna be humiliated. They're gonna be shamed, like the scriptures say in Nahum, how the Lord will lift up the skirt and show the kingdoms her shame, and basically she's gonna be disgraced. And all the nations they zeroing in on this place and seeing what it is. And this is why, like it says in Jeremiah, let all these nations flee to their own country for what the Lord's getting ready to do to this place. All right. So matter of fact, let me actually grab that. Let me go to Obadiah. It is Obadiah verse. I'll start at 1, but this is the point. Verse 2 is the point. It says, the vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord, power concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. So the Lord's going to put that spirit in these nations to finally turn against Edom, who happen to be the most respected and dominant nation on the face of the planet. Because remember, it was going to be a time when, Esau was going to rule. Even when you go back to the time of Isaac, when he was on his deathbed, he blessed Jacob, and then he ended up blessing Esau. And he said that Esau would be given the fatness of the earth, the dew of heaven, and by that sword shalt thou live. All right. And then, after the dominion, his yoke would be broke from off the neck. So since then it's been about vengeance. And this past half a century, it's like a half a millennium. All right, he's been in full force. With that spirit of vengeance on him. The Renaissance. Him whitewashing everything. Basically, I'm gonna take my brother's pictures down and put my pictures up. That was all his perpetual hatred. All right, because they know who we are. They know that we're the Lord's people. But Esau, he's vengeful. Okay, but anyway, so this prophecy has it where these other nations, they're gonna eventually come against Esau. That's why Esau is he's crashing out, because his fear is that, man, everybody's gonna turn against him, which they actually are. You done dominated for too long, and you done spoiled all nations. You done, you everywhere, causing all type of disturbances and wars. You staking claims to this land and that land. You want these people resources over here. You're just doing the most, man. And you supporting the genocide over there with the tiny hats. So these other nations are ready for you, man. And I don't know, dealing with these Somalians, right? You know, the timing of it all. This incident, Trump, enforcing deportation, to this specific group. We know that the Somalian population, back over in their homeland, they're damn near 99% of the Sunni Muslim faith, right? And we know that there's a war happening between the Zionists and these Islamic countries, primarily the ones that do not support Zionist Israel. So we know that Sudan and Somalia, all of different northeastern African countries, they're predominantly Muslim. Okay. So all this ties together, really. Okay. And then we also know that when we read, when we go into Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, it talks about Gog, which is Russia, that they're going to be a guard into these different nations. And it just so happened that a few of them that Russia will be a guard unto are Islamic countries. Libya is one of them, and Ethiopia, which are the people of Cush. The Somalians, they're of Cush as well. So, it's all spiritual how this is all lining up. But anyway, verse 2, so we can get to the point. It says, "Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised." Because now you're being humiliated on a global scale. The nations are seeing your shame. You all here crashing out. All right. Don't know how to be respectful anymore. You're not PC anymore. You're showing your prejudice and your racist hatred for everybody that's outside of your complexion. All right. So, the world is, they're seeing you for who you are. But, they didn't really see too much about you, when everything was all, okie dory. And, like it says in Psalms 83, the nations were confederate with each other against the children of the Most High, the children of Israel. It says in Revelation 11 that they gave gifts and made merry and gave gifts to one another. Wouldn't suffer our dead bodies to be put in graves. So as long as, we didn't know who we were and we were being exploited and used and mistreated and oppressed, everything was all good. But now you're seeing that Esau, you're seeing his true colors. Now the entire world is starting to see his nature, So now you're becoming greatly despised. Nobody respects you anymore. Like it says in, was that Isaiah, the 32nd chapter, about the liberal will no longer be seen as hold on, let me find it. There's Isaiah 32 verse 5, and it says, "The vile person shall be no more called liberal, nor the churl said to be bountiful." All right. You prided yourself on being this God-fearing Christian nation, and you established it on the heart of the Constitution that pretty much said that you have the freedom of religion, the freedom of assembly, religious assembly, freedom of speech. But now everything, if you no longer have that right now. You can't be honest. You can't say what you mean. You can't offend nobody. So that First Amendment is going out the window. Can't speak the truth. And then you're being targeted for your religious belief system. Now they coming down with this task force to classify people who are against, who speak any type of rhetoric or have any type of opinion that goes against the Christian principles, and not just Christianity in itself, Judeo-Christianity, the Christianity that support the Zionists, you will be classified. All right, you would be considered an extremist. All right, if you anti-Sim, you speak against the Zionist regime and what they're doing, you're going to be classified. You're going to be targeted. Okay, you're against what they're doing over there. That operation over there in the Holy Land in Palestine, you will be classified. So, this is nothing but the devil coming down with great wrath, knowing that he had but a short time. And you just got to peep it. But the nations, the world is no longer seeing him as this, noble, liberal, individual that want to, save humanity and spread his democracy. No, all you're doing is just, spreading your evil. You're demonstrating to the world that you think you're the only one. You have that I am and none else complex, like you the Most High. So the nations are starting to get fed up, and they no longer see you, how they used to see you when you was in your heyday, when you was in the height of your power. Now you're beginning to fall, where you got some damn Somalians laughing at you while you behind the counter, squeezing glaze on cinnamon rolls. This place has definitely fallen, man. Babylon is definitely fallen. But anyway, what I also want to do is let me bring this back around, because I mentioned how Elon Musk, he had made that statement on X. He made a tweet on X not too long ago. All right, and it says here, this is an AI response. It says in early December 2025, Elon Musk posted on X that if current demographic trends continue, white people, Edomites, worldwide will go from a minority of the population to virtually extinct. And these type of statements are, purposely being echoed, just to rally up, this exclusionary sentiment that they've always had, even going back to the early days. One of the things that the elder bishops be bringing out is that that essay by Benjamin Franklin, where he shared the same exclusionary sentiment. All right, that basically we're going to be outpopulated if we keep allowing these migrants from Europe. And he described some of them as being swarthy, of a swarthy complexion, which when you look up what it means to be swarthy, it means to be dark. Because you had a lot of those European, these different countries in Europe that were populated by the Morenos, the Moors. So you had a bunch of people that had that Moreno blood, flowing through their veins. Like the Southern Italians, you can go watch that movie, True Romance. And they had a particular scene where they were talking about those Southern Italians, how basically they're basically niggas. They got nigger blood flowing through their veins. So Benjamin Franklin, to see a lot of these European migrants coming over here, he felt like the Edomite population, the so-called white population here in America, was going to be outnumbered, outpopulated. All right. So that same sentiment, you can see it in these Edomites, and this is why they're crashing out. All right. It says this statement was made in the context of population collapse concerns. Musk has long voiced general concerns about declining global birth rates, which he views as a major threat to civilization. Well, you can think you're, what you're trying to create right now is going to contribute even further to it. All this technology, it's disrupting the global ecosystem, which is leading to the failure of things to yield and grow and populate. You're destroying and damaging the world through your technology. Anyway, it says great replacement theory. His recent comments came in response to posts claiming that Edomites are on the verge of extinction and linked the demographic changes to a plot by the far left to import voters via immigration to displace Edomite Americans, aligning with the far right great replacement conspiracy theory. So this is all just political strategy, if you will. So we're going to aim at these Somalian pirates that worship Islam. So we know that they're anti-Sim. And Trump, he literally called them garbage. He said that they're useless and they're garbage, blatantly. So everybody's paying attention to that. America's enemies and allies, they all are witnessing what's going on with that. But hey, I say, hey, Trump, keep it going, man. You're doing an impeccable work. It says, aligning with Trump's rhetoric, the post also coincided with Musk expressing alignment with President Donald Trump's anti-immigrant sentiment and attacks on Somali immigrants in Minnesota. And it makes sense why all of a sudden you're going after all these melanated or darker hued populations, and in this regard, he ain't doing it to curb crime and theft, and stuff like that. No, this is more so political. Okay, he's doing this at aiming at the Democrats, the Democratic ran governments in cities. Okay, but he's not using the same rhetoric that he used against the tribes to justify getting them up out of the country, because they still cracking down on the northern tribes, but now they just added a new face, a new demographic. This is for a different reason. So that's pretty much what they're trying to do. They're going after these darker races while importing Edomites from these different other countries. Remember, they was bringing in refugees from Ukraine, and then they started calling out those Jakes down there in South Africa. I believe a lot of them are Jake, but they was down there basically whooping on those Edomites down there. Those Edomites down there, they're descendants of the Dutch that came and actually colonized South Africa. And then they had the whole apartheid situation. So they went down there and they oppressed those people in their land over there, only to years later play victim when they're telling you that, man, get the hell out of our land, man. You taking our land and resources, you taking all the farmland, and you ain't leaving us with anything. And this was never y'all shit to begin with. So, few crimes happened, where some Edomites got dealt with, and all of a sudden, Trump, Elon Musk, now the focus got to be over there. And now, you know what? We're gonna send some aid. Matter of fact, come over here. We got some shelter. We got some land. We're gonna take care of you over here. So they bringing up these South African Edomites, all right, over here to the States, while deporting the northern tribes, knowing damn well that the immigrant population within the country is what actually helped to keep the labor force, going within the country, keep the infrastructure going. From your hospitality to your tourism to your agriculture. And you realize when you start to get rid of a lot of people, all that was being affected. So you don't want to deport every single one, because you know that it'll just amplify and speed up the fall of this infrastructure. You know, so Esau is using these talking points and his rhetoric, just to justify their their white supremacist mindset and their fear of being outnumbered and outpopulated. Because they fear that if they be outnumbered and outpopulated, the respect factor will start to leave. It will start to fade, and that's already happening on a global scale. You got these BRICS nations; they trading with the gold-backed currency. Then Russia is the new kid on the block now. Everybody's sending their respect to Russia. The European countries, they don't like that you got them in a pickle with Russia. Germany would rather still trade in trade in oil and petroleum with Russia. But the West, America is forcing them to pick a side. So, the Most High, he man. So this is why you're being made small among the heathen and greatly despised, and you also are being divided, with these issues as well. This migration thing, that is big amongst the out left. So them Edomites on that side, they're willing to fight with the alt-right Edomite over this issue. And all that's gonna, cause is further division. And what did the Lord say about division? Matthew 12 and 25, and I'll just read it in the KJV. It says, "And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand?" And Esau, his kingdom is not going to stand too much longer. It's already divided, so it's on the verge of, falling apart. And it's all being done systematically anyway. It ain't the migrants that's causing this collapse. It's all your different policy shifts. You changing the infrastructure and you destroying all the the farmlands and contaminating it with your weather wars, with your genetically modified weather technology. It's you. It has nothing to do with the migrant population as to why your country is plummeting. It's all you. And ultimately, like the scriptures say in Isaiah 19, the Lord made you foolish, that every decision that you're making based on the advice, it's caused you to make all the wrong moves, and it's further leading to your own downfall. It's Isaiah 19 and 14. Let me read it in the NLT. And it says, "The Lord has spent a spirit of foolishness on them, so all their suggestions are wrong. They cause Egypt to stagger like a drunk in his vomit." All right. So it's really your own decision making, all these different policies and executive orders, all these different things that you're doing, which you're really trying to, establish your new world order. But you don't care if it causes, total earth deterioration. You just want to get it done, man. Even if it's against your own interests or the interests of the people. The scriptures say a unwise king destroyeth his people. But you trying to blame that on the actual people. Yeah, this man, he has no accountability, man. Very childish. So let me, because you can see the tweets, the different posts from these Edomites that's blaming it on, whether it's, the northern tribes, You know, they're in the country trafficking and doing this and doing that. They're causing all the crime. And then, you know, oh, you got the this population over here. They're eating all the cats and dogs and chickens and stuff. Then over here, you know, well, they're just going to continue to vote Democrat, you know. Like, what are you talking about? No, man, you devils, you just were never wise rulers. But the Lord put this all in your power, you know, because it was all prophesied. All right, that the earth would be given into the hands of the wicked. You know, and look at the results. The whole entire world is mourning, like it says in Proverbs. When the righteous are on authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And the world is not in good condition. That's why there's nothing but uproars all over the world. Okay. And matter of fact, let me do this as well. Let me go to Chat GPT real quick. Isaiah, hold up. Let me just type this in. What it says in Isaiah 19:14. About the spirit of perverseness what does this mean and draw its parallel with the American government under Trump. Oh, let me do it right. All right. Let's see what it say. It says, below is a nonpartisan, historically informed, and theologically grounded explanation. I will explain the verse, what the phrase means, and then show how some scholars or commentators draw analogical parallels to any government in turmoil, not making value judgments about specific leaders. I will not endorse political positions, so of course they got to be, Chat GPT got to keep it PC. So I understand that. But anyway, it says, but I can explain how the analogy is sometimes used. It says, Isaiah 19:14 says, the Lord have mingled a spirit of perverseness in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. Other translations render spirit of perverseness as spirit of confusion, spirit of dizziness, spirit of distortion. Meaning of spirit of perverseness. In its ancient context, this phrase refers to divinely allowed confusion, distortion of judgment, meaning, your ability to make rational decisions, especially on behalf of, the people that rely upon you, as far as being a government, a ruler, a hierarchy. It says, in societal dysfunction within Egypt. And this modern Egypt is talking about America. All right, it says, breakdown of wise leadership. Egypt's political and religious leaders are pictured as being unable to think clearly or govern prudently. National disorientation. The nation is compared to a drunken person who cannot walk straight. This is symbolic language describing poor decision-making, contradictory policies, leadership chaos, and internal conflict. And you see a lot of that within the White House. You know, it's always a conflict of interest. That's what led to this whole government shutdown. You know, and things were starting to slowly but surely fall apart, and people were being afraid and fearful, and people was, we're not going to get our entitlements, our benefits, our SNAP benefits. Because you had national disorientation. All right. There's a lot of political turmoil happening. All right. It says, not sexual or moral perversity. The Hebrew perez here means twisted, distorted judgment, not sexual immorality. It is intellectual, political, and social dysfunction, a consequence of pride and infighting. The chapter describes Egypt's internal divisions and rivalries leading to its downfall, which is what I went into. This whole war between the alt-left and the alt-right. All right. It says how theological or political commentators draw parallels to modern governments. Many interpreters apply Isaiah 19 symbolically to any nation that appears internally divided or governed by confused leadership. This includes, depending on the commentator, Rome, Britain, Russia, or contemporary America. The key theme is national dysfunction, not a prophecy about a specific modern leader. How some people draw a parallel to U.S. under Donald Trump. Here's a neutral explanation of the structure of the analogy, not a political judgment. What the analogy focuses on nonpartisan, commentators who apply Isaiah 19 to modern American politics usually emphasize political polarization, a nation divided sharply between factions, the Democrats and Republicans. Back in Rome, it was the patricians and the plebeians, right? And there were, infighting going on. Like you had those Caesars, towards the end, right before the Flavian dynasty. It was the shortest time of a rule between these different Roman Caesars. Like you had Orbo, you had Galba, Vertilius, and I think you had what was the other one? Not Caligula. It was because it was four of them and they were very short, and there was a lot of infighting going on. All right. And Esau, he's always been who he's always have. He's always been envious of himself, which is why anytime that they rule, there's always going to be conflict, because they always trying to take each other out, to try to be the next in line to rule, to have some sort of power or dominance over everybody, because he's a covetous man. The scriptures tell you that. Tells you about that in Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. His soul that is lifted up is not upright in him. He wants to heap to himself all people, and his desire is as hell, and he can never be satisfied. That's him. It says contradictory communication or messaging, policies or public statements that change rapidly or conflict with each other. Institutional instability, frequent turnovers in advisors and cabinet positions. There's always somebody being fired and being replaced. Somebody bulking up against Trump, so somebody else got to fill in for the person. Because it's a lot of conflict, within the government. There's challenges between the branches of government, public perception of chaos, media portrayals of confusion or disorder in governance. In this sense, Isaiah's imagery of staggering like a drunk man is used metaphorically for any government appearing internally chaotic. All right. So, you can just, use that scripture to denote, the confusion you see happening within Babylon's own government. And they're trying to blame, what's occurring, the effects that's coming from this and from the previous administrations. They're trying to blame it on, you know, Jake. They're trying to blame it on the migrants, the immigrants, people of color. When really, in fact, it's you. You're deteriorating. You're self-destructing. And you trying to pull everybody down with you or shift blame. And that's always been Esau's MO. Always got to shift blame and project. You know? Can't take accountability. So the world they're becoming fatigued. They're suffering from Edomite fatigue. But it's clearly you. All right. You put yourself in a hole. You put yourself in this amount of debt. Okay. All this lawlessness is the reason why you have all this moral decay in the country, all this violence in the country. Because you don't know how to rule, you don't know how to govern. So, Esau, he's in war mode because he's losing, all right? And he's blaming it on the darker races right now. So he's gonna come for, Jake, he's gonna come for, these other populations, and the timing of it all, man. Esau is up to something. We already know. They stay plotting. Like the scriptures say, lest Satan should get advantage of us if we're not ignorant of his devices. So we're on to you. Okay? This is just you're just at your fall right now. So you're spazzing out. All right? You go back and read that Benjamin Franklin piece, that essay. All right? It was it had the same exclusionary sentiment. All right? They do not want to be outnumbered and outpopulated. Okay? They don't want to. Back then they didn't want to be Germanized because it was a bunch of swarthy people coming from Germany over here because Jake was blending in with the Germans. Okay? So Esau is at it again. But anyway, hopefully y'all were edified. I'm going to end off on that. I'm going to give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh Shai. And until the next lesson, I say, Shalom.